Once the platelet plug has been formed by the platelets, it needs to be stabilized. Now imagine that a hole is formed inside a window, which is our blood vessel, and it needs to be fixed. So the main players here to fix this hole are the clotting factors, which are a dozen proteins that travel along the blood plasma in an inactive state. And the activation of these lead to a sequence of events known as coagulation cascade, which we will talk about ahead. Now, the second key player over here is fibrinogen, which is, imagine a glass type structure that will cover this hole. And thirdly, we have the thrombin, or factor 2A. This will be the tool used to cut the glass or the fibrinogen in order to fix the hole. Now, the coagulation cascade will result in the formation of this thrombin, which is responsible for converting the fibrinogen to form fibrin. Now, fibrin is a fibrous, as the name suggests, fibrous and non-globular protein that is involved in the clotting of blood. And thus, a fibrin mesh is produced all around the platelet plug to hold it in place. Now, during this process, some red and white blood cells are also entrapped in this mesh, which causes the primary hemostasis plug to become harder. And the resultant plug is called a thrombus or a clot. Now, this mechanism that I just told you encompasses the secondary hemostasis. First up, if we look at the first player, which were the clotting factors. Now, as I told you earlier, there are 12 in number. Now, my friend Dr. B will come again and tell you a mnemonic to how to remember these 12 clotting factors, because they are very important in secondary hemostasis.
We can remember the 12 clotting factors or coagulation factors by the mnemonic. Foolish people try climbing long slopes after Christmas. Some people have fallen. Over here, F stands for complement factor 1, a protein named fibrinogen. P stands for factor 2, also known as prothrombin. T for factor 3, which is tissue factor or thromboplastin. C is attributed to factor 4, or calcium. L stands for factor 5, or labile factor, also called proaccelerin cofactor. S for factor 7, or stable factor, also termed as proconvertin. A for factor 8, called antihemophilic factor A. This C is for factor 9, called Christmas factor, or antihemophilic factor B. S stands for factor 10, or Stewart-Prower factor. P for factor 11, or plasma thromboplastin antecedent, also known as hemophilia C. H for factor 12, or Hagemann factor, and lastly, this F is for factor 13, which is the fibrin stabilizing factor.
Thank you, Dr. B. So, what did we learn with him? Repeat after me. Foolish people try climbing long slopes after Christmas. Some people have fallen. Now, you must have noted that factor 6 is actually missing from this list. Actually, a scientist named Paul Ovren debunked the generation of factor 6, which actually turned out to be the activated form of factor 5. Well, which is why factor 6 is not in active use these days. Most clotting factors are produced in the liver. Therefore, severe liver disease is associated with coagulopathy. Now, some even require vitamin K to form. The vitamin K dependent coagulation factors are factor 2, factor 7, factor 9, and factor 10. Now, there's a mnemonic you can use to remember these. The mnemonic goes somewhat like 2 plus 7 is 9 and not equal to 10. Seems quite funny, but it is a very efficient way to remember the vitamin K dependent factors. Again, these are 2, 7, 9, 10. You have to notice when vitamin K is deficient in the body, so bleeding disorders will occur since these will not be functional. And patients with blood clot disorders are usually recommended vitamin K antagonists to prevent excessive clotting. Okay, before moving forward, we must note a few things. The vitamin K dependent clotting factors are 2, 7, 9, 10. You also have to note that factors 5 and 8 are actually cofactors. And when we will denote a factor in gray color, it means that it is in an inactive state. And when denoted with an A with it, means that it is the activated form. And you also have to note that two factors usually combine to form an enzyme that actually activates other factors. Now let's move forward towards the coagulation cascade, in which these clotting factors are playing a very important part. Now you have to note that there are 3 steps involved, just like the 3 steps were involved in the platelet plug formation that we talked about in the last section. So the first step in the coagulation cascade is the initiation phase, which actually encompasses a release of a small amount of signal, which is thrombin. The second step is the amplification of this signal, or the production or the enhanced production of thrombin. And third step is the propagation phase. Let's take a look at these in detail one by one. The process leading to the formation of the blood clot involves the sequential conversion of proenzymes to active enzymes in an amplifying cascade. Now, these proenzymes are actually the clotting factors. And when they get activated, we denote them with what? With an A. Now, the ultimate goal is to produce thrombin, which are the scissors that are used to cut fibrinogen to produce fibrin. And we have to produce a massive burst of it, so there is a rapid formation of the clot. If we rewind back to the start of the story, when the vessel was getting damaged, the collagen was getting exposed. Now, at the same time, the endothelin was being released to constrict the vessel. With that, the tissue factor, which is also denoted as TF and also known as thromboplastin, was also being released by the endothelial cells. Now, you also have to note that it may also be released by other cells like fibroblasts or monocytes. The initiation of secondary hemostasis actually starts with factor 7, which is a clotting factor that is circulating in the blood. You can remember this by our lucky number 7. Now, it binds to this tissue factor and results in the activation of this factor, thus making a complex with this. Just imagine these two getting together and starting a business or forming a partnership. I keep telling you that this A actually denotes the activated form of a clotting factor. Now, this business or complex will then activate a key protein, which is the factor 10. Now, they will empower this factor 10 to go start its own business or complex with factor 5 or cofactor 5. We will name this complex prothrombinase. Do note that it only gets activated when attached to the cells by phospholipids. Now, this is an especially important business deal and an equally important enzyme because it helps in the conversion of prothrombin to thrombin, which were the scissors that we were looking for. However, this thrombin produced over here at this stage is very insufficient for clot formation, and this signal has to be amplified. Why is this so? Well, it's because this signal is produced by the damaged endothelial cells, which are very few in number. But imagine if we combine the powers of platelets, which are thousands in number, we will be able to amplify this signal tenfold, no, even thousandfold. So the amplification takes place on the surface of the activated platelets. The small amount of thrombin that was produced by the endothelial cells activates nearby platelets and also the factor 5 on the surface. Here, another cofactor comes into play, which is the cofactor 8. Now, in normal conditions, it is bound to the plasma von Willebrand factor, so it stays protected from degradation. Now, this thrombin will cleave this factor 8 from von Willebrand factor, which will then attach to the platelet wall. So, the end product is a large number of activated platelets, each with a large surface area due to pseudopodia, and are covered with active cofactors. Now, the scene is set for the propagation phase. Here, a lot of platelets are activated, so more signals can be sent. Now, the spotlight will be shown on factor 9. It is activated either by thrombin or by the tissue factor, factor 7 complex, or the business deal we were talking about in the very beginning. Now, this activated factor 9 will then form a business deal or a complex with cofactor 8. They are attached to the platelet surface by thrombin. Now, this business deal will be called 10As. Now, you can guess what it will do. It will obviously activate factor 10. Now, you must note that factor 10 was getting activated in the first stage too, where it was attaching to the cofactor 5 to make prothrombinase. But over here, it is getting activated by the 10-nase enzyme. Now, this is much more powerful activator than the tissue factor, factor 7 complex, since we are requiring amplification over here. Now, this large amount of factor 10A thus generated binds to the cofactor 5A, also on the platelet surface, to form a similarly large amount of prothrombinase. Now, you must note that this factor 10 was also getting activated in the first stage as well, where it was attaching to the cofactor 5 to make up prothrombinase. But over there, it was getting activated by the tissue factor complex. And here, it is getting activated by the 10As enzyme, which is a much more powerful activator than the tissue factor complex, since we are actually requiring amplification over here. Now, this large amount of factor 10A produced binds to the factor 5A, which is also present on the platelet surface, to form a similarly large amount of prothrombinase. Now, this prothrombin is split at the N-terminal end, and thrombin is produced. Consequently, a massive burst of thrombin is produced. You can say that is 1,000-fold greater than the initial phase. Now, this thrombin then cleaves the fibrinogen, which is bound around the platelets, to form fibrin monomers. Now, if we zoom into this process, we can see that the thrombin actually cleaves the fibrinogen and forms fibrin monomers and also yields fibrinopeptides A and B. Now, these fibrin monomers spontaneously polymerize to a fibrous mesh of fibrin, thus entrapping the platelets and the other blood cells. Now, the thrombin also activates factor 13, or the fibrin stabilizing factor. Now, we can see through its name that it will help in the cross-linking of the fibrin polymer to create a tough network of fibrin fibers, and thus a stable clot. This factor 13 actually links the side chain of the fibrin threads via covalent bonds. Well, not only this, the thrombin actually also supports the platelet aggregation and resulting in a very stable, tight seal that is formed by these aggregated platelets and the fibrin meshwork. Now, the platelets entrapped in this mesh actually retract themselves by releasing thrombostathinin. It contracts the clot by almost 60%, making it tougher and assisting repair by drawing the edges of the wound or the vessel wound together. Well, you have to note that this is the cell-based model of clotting. It has actually replaced the older extrinsic and intrinsic pathways. Now, most of the action in this model only occurs on the endothelial cells or the platelet surfaces. So, we saw that a tough blood clot was formed. The window that we were talking about earlier is now fixed. Well, that was actually really tough. So now you can see how amazingly all the processes inside our body are working together.